You may have clicked on this because you've seen a picture of a shirtless man in underwear on your Netflix feed and you're wondering, why would anybody watch this? Or maybe you know exactly why and you're dipping your toe back into the world of WWE, but you have no idea who any of these new wrestlers are. Well, I'm here to help. WWE, in my opinion, is as good as it's ever been, and I'd love nothing more to create a new wrestling fan. I'm not going to cover everything because there's no need for you to know everything right now. So instead, I'm just going to focus on 5 main topics that I think you need a basic understanding of to get you caught back up to watch the show. So let's start first with the product. If you're new here, yes, we all know it's fake. If you're watching it like it's real, you're gonna have a bad time. I always say this is closer to Broadway than it is to football. It's drama, it's comedy, it's action, and that is why we love it. The sooner you buy into this, the better. Now, the core product of WWE is the same that it has always been. Lather up in baby oil and play fight in the ring. It is characters and interweaving storylines, scripted interactions that have their payoff in the form of a match in the wrestling ring full of action-packed stunts and cinematic climactic finishes. That is the WWE. But the product has evolved over time. Gone are the days of ex-CEO Vince McMahon controlling every aspect of every minute of every show. He's kind of like Voldemort now. Like, we don't really say his name anymore. Triple H is now the creative mastermind behind everything you see in the ring and on the TV. For those new to WWE, Triple H is one of the greatest and most decorated superstars of all time. It used to be that a guy just wanting another guy's title belt was enough to create a storyline. But in this new version of Triple H's WWE, realistic, creative, interweaving storylines are king now. And it's been refreshing, and we have Triple H to thank for that. The shows. There are 2 main WWE shows, Monday Night Raw and Friday Night Smackdown. This hasn't changed for like 25 years. They are both basically the same show. The only difference is they have their own set of superstars and storylines separate from the other show. The goal of these shows is to build storylines, build characters that people want to see in entirely separate shows called premium live events. Typically, these happen every 6 to 8 weeks. And it's kind of where you have the big payoff of bigger matches. You have championships put on the line, and you have the finale of some of these storylines and feuds played out at these premium live events. Raw and SmackDown both have their own individual set of title belts and superstars holding those titles. There are different tiers to these titles, with the WWE and World Championships being reserved for the top individual talent, the United States and Intercontinental titles being reserved for the middle tier of talent, and then they have the tag team titles, which is reserved for tag teams. Just knowing that there are tiers of titles typically aligned with how WWE views the star power of each person holding that title is enough for you to know now. And that's the cycle. Weekly shows building to premium live events that people will pay extra money to watch. That's the core pro wrestling business model. It's been this way for 40 years and it'll be that way for 40 more. Third is superstars and storylines. Now, there's just no way I can get through every superstar and storyline, so I'm going to focus on the 5 most important ones. The first is the John Cena retirement tour. Whether you're new to wrestling or an old fan, you probably know who John Cena is. He is considered by many to be the greatest WWE superstar of all time and announced last year that he will be retiring at the end of 2025. Now, he's been part-time since like 2017, meaning he's just kind of showed up in between acting roles. But this retirement tour means that he is going full-time for the 2025 calendar year, showing up regularly, and then fully retiring from in-ring action at the end of the year. For those of you that don't know, before he was a Hollywood star, John Cena carried the WWE on his shoulders for several years. I will be crying at the end of 2025, and I'm not ashamed to say that. The second is Roman Reigns and the Bloodline storyline. Roman Reigns has been the biggest star in the WWE for the last 5 years. His current character and storyline started in 2020, which is referred to as the Bloodline, and it's been the biggest storyline in the WWE since it started. For background, Roman Reigns and several other superstars in the WWE are a part of a Samoan dynasty made up of 3 different families. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is a part of this bloodline. Now, the central conflict of this bloodline story is a power struggle over who is the rightful leader of the bloodline, also known as the Tribal Chief. Roman Reigns was the self-proclaimed Tribal Chief from 2020 to 2024, during which he also held the WWE Championship for a 1,316-day title reign, which is the 4th longest in WWE history. And it was through this storylines that we saw The Rock return to the WWE to fight alongside his Bloodline teammate Roman Reigns to defend the Bloodline at WrestleMania last year. Roman Reigns actually ended up losing the title to Cody Rhodes at last year's WrestleMania, upon which he took a break from the WWE. And in his absence, one of his Bloodline family members, Solo Sikoa, decided, hey, I think I'm the rightful tribal chief. So he recruited other Bloodline family members to the WWE and created what we call the New Bloodline. When Roman returned, he was like, nah, you didn't earn this. You didn't beat me. I am the rightful tribal chief. And then Roman enlisted the help of his OG Bloodline team members and formed the OG Bloodline. And that is the match that we'll see on the Netflix debut. Roman Reigns as the leader of the OG Bloodline versus Solo Sikoa as the leader of the New Bloodline to determine who really is the rightful tribal chief. As a fan, you are legally required to put your finger up like this and acknowledge who you feel is the rightful tribal chief when they make their way to the ring. Third is Cody Rhodes and the story. If you watch WWE in the 2000s or 2010s, the name Cody Rhodes is familiar to you. This guy might not be. And for you old heads, yes, this is Dusty Rhodes' son. Cody Rhodes is the biggest star in WWE right now. He actually debuted in the WWE in 2008 looking like this, and over the next 8 years ended up looking like this. So he pulled a Stone Cold, said to the WWE, and he left. He then built his name back up through independent wrestling circuits and eventually even helped to form what is now the WWE's biggest competitor, AEW, which he controversially left to rejoin the WWE. And through all of that, he is still the WWE's poster child. It is a wild story. He's the current champion on Smackdown, the same title belt that he won by defeating Roman Reigns at WrestleMania last year in what honestly was one of the biggest moments in WWE history. It was the second year that him and Roman actually main evented WrestleMania in a championship match, but Cody lost in 2023. The 2024 rematch was incredible, not necessarily for the technical wrestling, but for the sheer spectacle and storytelling behind the match. It was, for me, the pinnacle of everything that is great about WWE and pro wrestling. I could gush about it for an hour. For returning fans, he is that typical good guy type, like Good Guy Hogan, like John Cena, like Roman Reigns in the mid-2010s. As a fan, you are required to shout, "Whoa!" when the right part comes up in Cody Rhodes' theme song. I don't write the rules, I just follow them. You gotta do it. So Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes have kind of dominated WWE TV over the last few years. But there are other big storylines that I want to get to now, and I'll cover them a little bit more quickly. The Judgment Day. This is a group that was formed by former WWE superstar Edge a couple years ago. Members of this group have shifted quite a bit over the years. It was originally Edge, Rhea Ripley, and Damian Priest. Shortly after Edge formed the group, he also recruited another guy named Finn Balor. And very quickly after that, they all turned on Edge and kicked him out. And the group then decided, we're not going to have an actual leader. We're just going to split leadership equally between the three of us. And you can probably guess how this eventually turns out. They then recruited Dominic Mysterio, the son of WWE Hall of Famer Rey Mysterio, and this was their core group for about a year. And at one point, both Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest had top singles championships, and the group also had tag team titles. They were very successful. During this time, Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio's romantic relationship also flourished. But unfortunately, Rhea had a shoulder injury that put her out for a while, and she had to relinquish her championship. And then a cute blonde girl named Liv Morgan showed up, and Dominic Mysterio couldn't resist himself. He would constantly show up to Liv Morgan's matches and accidentally help her win. And when Rhea Ripley eventually returned, she challenged Liv Morgan for her championship back. And despite all this time claiming he was loyal to Rhea and everything was an accident this whole time, you can kind of guess where things ended up. He turned on Rhea to help Liv Morgan win. On the same night, Damian Priest also lost his world championship, and shortly after, Damian and Rhea were both kicked out of the group. A series of battles then between Rhea and Liv and Damian and Finn ensued over the next few months, and that brings us to where we are now. And lastly, CM Punk's return. One of the best ways to create a moment in pro wrestling is a surprise return. CM Punk's return to the WWE in 2023 was one of the more memorable returns in history, and it was not one that most fans expected to ever see. He left in 2014 due to personal issues with the company and was pretty outspoken about how he felt about leadership in his time in the WWE. Eventually, a few years ago, he made his pro wrestling return and joined WWE's direct competitor AEW, and was pretty quickly fired from that company because of issues backstage. Now he's currently in a storyline with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins debuted on the same night and same group that Roman Reigns did in 2013, but during that time, him and CM Punk didn't have much interaction because Seth Rollins was still pretty new to WWE. Since Punk's departure, Seth Rollins has been incredibly successful, and he's built a reputation of being the workhorse and very loyal to the pro wrestling industry as a whole. So when Punk returned, Seth Rollins was pissed to see him back. He feels that Punk is a toxic presence and questions his motivations for returning to WWE. So that's the 5 bigger storylines that I feel are happening right now. There's obviously a lot more. I cannot get into them without taking hours of your time, but none of this, the shows, the superstars, the storylines, the Netflix debut, none of it is possible without the most important character of the WWE. The fans. Pro wrestling is what it is because of the audience. It's a live show with instant feedback where the audience is encouraged to be vocal. We cheer for people we like. We boo for people we don't. We laugh. We cry. It's a very passionate fan base because the product demands passion from the audience in order for it to be successful. The talent and the storylines will always change and evolve, but the audience being the center point of it all will always be true. So as a fan, embrace your role and just have fun with it. It's silly, and the product admittedly isn't always great, but right now it's a renaissance for the WWE. And I encourage you to continue watching beyond just this video because we're seriously in for a treat in 2025.